We have two great panelists. We lost one of our panel members that he became very, very ill. And Octavio is a fisheries, he's with the Scripps Oceanographic Institute. He is working feverishly on protecting fisheries and getting MPAs, marine protected areas, in Mexico. Just about ready to engage with the Mexican government to make that happen. So we're going to miss him, but we have two dynamite participants of this panel. And Jim, come on up. And Jim is the executive director and co-founder of Blue Force.
Force Blue.
And Force Blue, sorry, Force Blue. And he's a fantastic diver, and how this got started is that he was diving with a friend who had PTS, and the shift in that trip in your friend ignited the idea for this Force Blue. He's an unsuspecting screenwriter and director, award-winning. So, and we've had some great discussions, and I'm looking forward to this panel. Jessica, there you are.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Mother Nature had other plans, and I needed to get that focused before I came back here. So, sorry to keep you waiting.
No, it's fine. No, and you've had some personal challenges as well. So delighted that you're here. She is the CEO of, this is Jessica Harvey. She's the CEO of the Guy Harvey Foundation, which is dedicated to marine science education and inspiration. And works, well, she is also a diver and has these amazing videos that she takes into the classroom where she is down with sharks, she's down with manta rays, she's down with everything, and is talking to you while all of this is happening. And they are in schools now all around the world. And I would like to just say that both of you, I admire your work and your initiative so much. So you, Jessica, are first, please.
Thank you so much. Firstly, thank you so much for the honor of being here. I don't know if anyone has also experienced such a massive joy and inspiration of being able to attend and listen to the amazing speakers here at EarthX. Sally, what you just shared gave me goosebumps at a time where I have been going through a lot of difficulty, and it is, you do need a level of hope and inspiration to kind of pick you up from that. And I'm sure everyone has gone through something similar. So my hope today is as mentioned, I run the Guy Harvey Foundation, and I'm going to help explain who we are. We're going to be, one of the things that I'm going to be talking about today is sustainable fisheries in Mexico, and how that, unfortunately, Dr. Octavio was not here to be with us, and he was able to complement some of that. But this presentation is to help give you an idea of who we are, what we do, and hopefully give you a better understanding of why we're reaffirming that sustainable fisheries is an important factor to support for a healthy blue economy. Conserving nature's masterpiece is a huge part of who we are, literally because it started off with art. The Guy Harvey Foundation was founded in 2008. Dr. Guy Harvey, the founder, and my father, he is a marine biologist first. He did a PhD in fisheries management, and he also happened to enjoy art. And he's been doing it since he was 6 years old. It was part of a coping mechanism for homesickness, but he found a passion for the ocean, and it was highlighted through the story of the old man and the sea. And that's a whole nother story, I can tell you. But the main thing was that he is one of the few individuals that showcased how art and science are better together than they are treated in a silo. The Guy Harvey Foundation supports scientific research and educational initiatives aimed at conserving marine life and oceanic environments. It's also an honor to be here with Jim. We have had a wonderful partnership over the last few years, and I have learned a lot. And some of the things that were highlighted today in terms of the importance of collaboration is so true. This is the man himself. Given his, I guess, a unique factor in some of the things that we're going to be talking about today is that he started off with scientific illustrations. And as a biologist, you didn't use color. You used black and white illustrations to be able to showcase what a fish looked like and differentiate the species, differentiate its habitat. And it was my mum, his then girlfriend, who encouraged him to showcase his art because it really spoke to her and spoke to a lot of people, but he didn't have the courage at the time. When he eventually did, and he, after being a professor for several years at University of West Indies, he decided to take on the challenge of making what his hobby was into a profession. But he never, ever left science, particularly marine science. It actually made him even better as an artist. Sometimes he needed assistance from us, as you can see in this photo. This is my brother and myself. It's just the two of us. This scene is of Magdalena Bay in Mexico, where the striped marlin are coming in for the bait balls, and you can see a sea lion. I mean, this and all sorts of things. Like, it's huge. It was probably about 10 feet long. And that's what he loved. He said, he always used to say that big animals demand a big canvas. And it was a wonderful learning environment for us. We're very visual people. I later found out that I have minor dyslexia. And so it was even more critical that to learn complex things like how ecosystems work, how biology works, what is in our environments through art. So this allowed him to, again, understanding the value of research in all of this, he continued to find ways to help support it. So as a Guy Harvey brand, that's one of our main missions, is to continue to support marine research and educational initiatives aimed at conserving our natural environment. This is him being completely fearless. A lot of people will look at this and say, why on earth are you in the ocean with this animal with a bill? Is that thing gonna spare you? And it's through education that you understand how you can coexist and see these animals. And that's what he showed us as kids, and he continues to show people. He also showcased, and being a fisherman himself, an avid fisherman, he allowed us to explore these amazing places. The biodiversity that our ocean provides is awesome. And this animal was a particular animal that was tagged with a satellite tag rather than being harvested. And when he was growing up as a scientist, you harvested everything. And you didn't know at the time that what an impact that was having. And so as he learned more and grew more, he didn't bake on the fact of the guilt necessarily of, I participated in something that wasn't unsustainable. He's now using it as knowledge to say, this is where we've come, this is what we've learned, this is how we need to help move forward. And I'm grateful that he's been a role model for that and continues to do so. We do a lot of tagging, and again, grateful to Tim's knowledge of NOAA in terms of the satellite use. A lot of the information that we gain from understanding these animals is totally dependent on satellites and all the infrastructure around that, so very important. But it's, in terms of being able to accomplish what you do and still being able to look after a family and bring in those morals is a lot of work. I don't know how many of you have kids or have grandkids or people, but it is, his mission is to help leave behind something that we can benefit from and other generations can benefit from. And I'm honored to be here to be a part of that. So our mission is that the foundation collaborates with local and international organizations to conduct scientific research and host educational programs better at understanding and conserving the ocean environment. And I'd like to take a moment to explain that there's a difference between preserving and conserving. We are very supportive of conserving the marine environment, which for us means that we want people and society to be able to use the natural resources. And that takes different kinds of management to be able to do that. Preserving means you're holding off and you're not doing anything, you're not allowing anything to be done in a particular area. We think that conserving has better possibilities in terms of moving us forward towards a sustainable future. And from the mantra that we have is that it is our collective responsibility to conserve our marine environment and protect the biodiversity of this planet. And that was so beautifully talked about in the panel just before this. So I'm going to go, because I know that I've probably gone over time. We are associated strongly with many different universities, but mostly with Nova Southeastern University, who has been a fantastic collaborator. We very much support scientific publications and that aid policy change, that aid biological discoveries. We have tools that we want to give to the public that they can use to better see some of the things that are harder to understand. As you said, it's when it's not tangible, it's very difficult. So there's ways in which we can help bridge that gap. We're very invested in expanding our educational channels. We work with Discovery Education. We work with teachers and educators to give them the tools to feel more comfortable talking about these things. COVID was a very big part of burnout for a lot of educators when you're not only losing really good people, but also you're now shifting into subject matter that you're less familiar with. The Guy Harvey Foundation wants to do its part to help support that. We can talk more about that later. We've expanded a lot in Florida being our home base, but where I'm also here to better understand how we can bring this to places like Texas and other states, because it will hopefully be very helpful and add a lot more to make this stronger and freely accessible to the communities. We have resources that are available. We can chat more about that afterwards. And we want to inspire the next generation into opportunities, particularly around the blue economy, that people don't know about. I mean, growing up, we didn't understand that there was a whole vast maritime industry that doesn't necessarily mean just marine science or just mean captains. Like, there is a whole vast group of industries that can support that. And so we hope to demonstrate and illustrate that through support. Great, I'm glad that was done. So there's a lot. I am honored to be here, and we hope that our unique factor is that we can showcase what we're trying to achieve through art and science and be inclusive and supportive of what was so well illustrated in the earlier panel of needing to make a difference in this world. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jim?
Yeah, well, I just want to start by thanking you, Sally, for inviting me to be part of the panel. Jess, as always, it's so awesome to be up here with you. And Sid, and Admiral Tim for asking me to join them here. I have to tell you, this has been like a real homecoming for me. It's been kind of weird because, about 9 years ago when Force Blue was just an idea, Trammell Crow, I'd been introduced to him through a friend, and he invited us to come down here. We did our first ever fundraiser, actually at the Parkland office building, which was the old Parkland Hospital. Those of you who live here will know what I mean. And we had our fundraiser there, and that actually helped us raise the money to go to the Cayman Islands, where Jess and her father were part of our initial training cadre for a group of 6 special operations veterans that we brought to see if this idea would even work, if we could pair SEALs and scientists together to hopefully go out and do some good for both. So it all happened here. We stayed at the Anatole, and it's just been phenomenal to be back. So I just had to kind of get that out of the way. But where's that clicker? Do you have? Yeah, no. So I am, as I was introduced, I'm Jim Ritterhoff. I'm the executive director, and I'm one of 3 co-founders of an organization called Force Blue. So what is Force Blue? We are the only, as far as I know of, nonprofit organization in the world that retrains and redeploys former special operations veterans, military-trained combat divers, all right, to work with scientists and environmentalists on marine conservation missions. Really, the idea for it, which is about 10 years old, as I mentioned, was that we wanted to try to create a win, not just a win-win, but a win-win-win, right? First off, from a logical standpoint, economic standpoint, we're talking about individuals and our veterans, our special operations veterans, who governments spend millions of dollars, right, to make the absolute best underwater operators. Why put that on a shelf just because they leave the military? It's foolish, right? They are a skilled workforce that can be brought to bear for a scientific community that desperately needs the help. So that's one win. The second win that we're really proud of is what it enables our veterans to continue to do, which is to serve and to feel like they're a part of something larger than themselves, which is all they've ever wanted to be. It's why they're called service people. And to have that purpose and mission again, that honestly, after 2 decades of war, a lot of these individuals, you can't just put them in a cubicle and say, get on with your life. So Force Blue gives them back that way to continue to serve. So that's the second win. The third win, which was kind of an unintended consequence that we didn't think about, is that in this hyper-partisan political world in which we now live, and I don't think anybody can disagree that that's the state of the world right now, people who will not listen to another climate change scientist or environmentalists talk about marine conservation will listen to Navy SEALs and Green Berets and Recon Marines and Air Force pararescuemen, because these guys are their heroes, right? So it's a very different platform in the marine conservation space, and it's very unique. As I said, I believe, to the best of my knowledge, we're the only organization out there doing it. It is not, however, a new concept. Those of you who will recognize this gentleman will understand that he is probably a hero to some of you. He certainly was to me. Perhaps the reason why I became a diver in the first place, because I grew up landlocked in Pennsylvania, but Sunday nights I used to watch the undersea world of Jacques Cousteau and dream that that would someday be me, right? What people don't realize is that prior to becoming the Jacques Cousteau that we all spent, if you're my age, you spent your Sunday nights with, he was a member of the French Navy. In fact, he trained and equipped the French frogmen, Commando Hubert, who actually pioneered a lot of the equipment that he helped invent. And he trained those guys, and he also served with them on the Calypso. Everybody knows, his sons who were with him on the Calypso, but he was also in the background were a lot of guys that he had trained in the military. So this idea of putting special operations veterans to work for marine conservation is really not that new. But we like to say that through the process and the structure, we have created an environment of cooperation and caring that truly has the potential to save lives. We've seen it firsthand, and save the planet. So, who are our partners? Well, this is where I get to get really excited and be very proud, because in the 9 years since we have begun deploying, we have partnered with some of the biggest names in marine conservation here in the US to deploy hundreds now of veterans on dozens of missions across the United States. Everywhere from Florida, working on coral projects with Jess and the Guy Harvey Foundation, to Florida DEP and numerous aquariums, and to freshwater missions up in the Great Lakes, even in the Salt River out in Arizona, which was an interesting endeavor for all of us. But the fact is, there's no shortage of missions out there, and there's no shortage of men and women who want to participate in them. So we're really proud at just the sheer mission scope that we've been able to achieve. I'm even prouder, however, and this is really, I think, why I'm up here today to talk to you guys, is the partnerships on the economic, on the private sector side that we've been able to form. We've been able to partner with organizations like the National Football League, like PepsiCo, like Public Supermarkets, which is a huge chain in Florida, who have never before been involved in marine conservation, right? But we're the spoonful of sugar that helps the medicine go down, right? Veterans who are helping to return veterans to service is something that, even if you're not super excited about marine conservation, you can support, right? So it's a really, again, another unique way to hopefully bring private sector partners to bear.
So most moderators don't give a presentation, but because we lost Octavio and I was asked to do so, and there's a couple slides in here that actually don't need to be in here. There are a lot. I want you to get an impression. That's the most important thing. So I'm going to go relatively quickly. So it said elephants are ice-dependent species. And that is true, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So the Arctic has been an early warning system. It's been the canary. It's been, and now it's a global SOS because of what's happening in the Arctic is affecting the rest of the world. This particular image shows you, if you can look carefully, all the arrows to these tipping points that losing the Arctic could actually trigger. All of those arrows emanate from the Arctic. And the interesting thing is that the Arctic is a measurable metric to which we could correlate, if we choose to, we could correlate how deep emissions need to go to protect this apex system. It's like protecting grizzly bears. If you protect grizzly bear habitat, you've protected all the other species in the area. So this is what's happening. This is how fast this is going. And on the right is where we are now. And the yellow line is where we were in 2020. And why this is so important is because of the albedo effect. I touched on this in the earlier session, is because it is our reflector of the sun's heat and radiation. And you can see in this is that when you don't have that ice reflecting, then it absorbs, that heat is absorbed in the ocean and raises water temperature and air temperature. So why does this matter? I touched on this a little bit too, is because nothing happens in isolation. Everything is connected to everything. So here are our 5 life support systems. The cryosphere, which is all the ice and snow on the planet, is unraveling the fastest. And I mentioned in the last session that the Arctic is warming 4 to 7 times. It's warmer 4 to 7 times than any other place on the planet. So if one starts to fail, it absolutely has impact on all the rest. That's why we have to start thinking in systems. And we have a saying in the Arctic, what happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic. And so here you go. This is what's happened to the jet stream. This is scientifically verified because of losing the sea ice and also ocean currents. The AMOC and also the Gulf Stream have slowed down. So how does this translate? Greenland ice sheet now is exacerbated by losing the sea ice, and it is losing 30 million tons of ice per hour. They had no idea that it was going as fast as it was. NASA thinks that it has melted 20% more than they thought. The other consequence, not direct from losing the sea ice, but from exacerbating the melt of the Greenland ice sheet, is sea level rise. This is what it would look like. You've lost Miami. If you went up the coast, all of the major cities are underwater. New Orleans, yeah. Exactly. And so there is a movement to ask our global leaders, if we have an upper limit for heat, for how warm the planet can get, what's the upper limit that Florida, for example, can tolerate in sea level rise? Nobody's asked them that question. So drought is another thing that's happening because precipitation has changed. And on the left is China, on the right is projections. That was 2000, and I think I can't see, 2012. And then currently at the bottom. And extreme weather. This is the real big one. On the left is LA. They got the LA fires wrong. It's fire and ice. And why did the drought happen in the first place? The short term was trimming all the dry brush close to the city limit. But we should have been looking further down the road. The right is Kansas. And then when you have drought, the system brings flood because all the heat gets stuck by the polar vortex and it holds more water and then it has to drop it. So this is worldwide. This phenomenon is worldwide. And yes, it looks like bad news. It's the truth. And we have to be prepared to understand the truth so that we can really take the right actions. This is Brazil and Bolivia. These are fires. Since 2019, the majority of these are human set for clearing the forest for cattle and McDonald's hamburgers. It's true. And but there's been a huge increase, 162% in natural fires because of the ocean current changes and because of what's happening on the ground. There's much less moisture in the Amazon. And indigenous people are suffering from the Arctic to Africa to the Amazon. And permafrost, we touched on that in the other session. This is a real thing. Russia should really be thinking about the permafrost because they have lost some major facilities to permafrost. And they have nuclear plants and they have huge oil facilities in Siberia. So the bottom line is we are all ice-dependent species. On the right is an Amazon tributary. The water got too warm, the fish died. On the left is, in my state, Superior, the whole town burned from a prairie fire. And then you have elephants and giraffes dying in Kenya and Somalia and Ethiopia from extended drought. And of course, climate refugees. So literally, global climate security is on thin ice. And so what we did, Global Choices, we went from evidence, this is a science-driven social justice driven initiative to action. In the heart of the Arctic is the Central Arctic Ocean. It is beyond national jurisdiction. It's beyond the EECs. It's identified as a high seas by the UN law of the sea. It belongs to everybody. It belongs to nobody. It's a global commons. And we have proposed, as important as this area is, we have proposed a 10-year moratorium based on the precautionary principle to protect what we can while we can. And so you can see what would be permitted, what is not permitted, and what is restricted. This is like saying, you know, we always go in like this and then we turn around and go, oh my God, how do we fix it? How do we fix it? The precautionary principle just says take a deep breath before we go in and do whatever it is and know the consequences. So, and you can see the sea ice now melts back into the Central Arctic Ocean. We are north of Greenland here. So what do these threats look like? It's going to prevent radioactive waste dumping, nuclear weapon testing, the shipping route I mentioned that would go straight across the North Pole. These are icebreakers. Deep seabed mining, which is crazy, I have to tell you, because they're looking for copper, nickel, cobalt, etc. 70 million tons of copper are in our electronic landfills. Why are we not looking at our and nickel? Why are we not mining there instead? And if, again, as what Tim said, it's about values and it's about where you put your investment. Oil and gas is actually a problem in the Siberian Basin. Also, unregulated mass tourism. We know this from what the Galapagos has had to do. And then unregulated geoengineering. Not opposed to geoengineering, but we need to know what the heck we are doing and what the consequences might be. So we've put together with attorneys at Cambridge, Harvard, Singapore University, a precedent-setting legal text, and it's a draft text for nation-state endorsement and corporation endorsement. And we have several nation states waiting for the final of this. We just held a UN consultation with the Permanent Indigenous Forum at the UN on Wednesday. And Indigenous are very incorporated into this process, both Arctic, but also Africa, South America, the island states, because they are suffering as well. And so we have an impact action plan. We have something called the Arctic Angels, which are young women from 13 to 30 who are in 40 different countries now, and they are ice defenders. We're working with The Economist on economic analysis, the Arctic Ice Force, which is anybody, anywhere in the world. We work a lot with heads of state. We do research, and we also do education and climate literacy. So I'm not going to read this, don't have time, but climate change is a threat multiplier, particularly in the Arctic, and this moratorium is a benefit multiplier. So what can you do? Keep in mind that 1 ton of CO2, emitted CO2, equals 3 meters squared or 32 square feet of sea ice gone. So think about the things that you can do in your own life to reduce your carbon footprint. And here's a series of them, and you can take a picture of the slide. Also, we have a petition that you can sign, and that's what that QR code is. that supports putting this moratorium in place. Only 10 years, just enough to give science time to catch up and climate action. And here's a series of things that corporations can do about their carbon footprint. And one of the differences with this issue and a lot of other climate issues is we can't plant ice. We can plant mangroves, we can plant forests, we can restore wetlands, we can't plant ice. So if you want to find out more about global choices, here are the QR codes. And I just want to finish with this. This is Inuit elder who's a friend of mine who lives in the farthest northern community in Greenland. And his mother told him this, that melting the ice in the heart of man, only then will he change and use knowledge wisely. So that's how I look at that issue. But but I want to ask Jessica a couple questions, and Jim as well. Do you actually take children do you teach them how to dive? Do you take them into the water? How do you do that as an immersive, literally?
That's a great question. So one of the things early on that we recognize as a foundation is that there's a lot of things we would like to do, but we have to be realistic in terms of capacity. Mm-hmm. And so we chose to the activities and programs that we've chosen to do are starting points. And as we hope to expand, we hope to be able to offer more. And that's why we collaborate with partners. This is a perfect example. So there's a question about diving. We support the activity of diving because in the sense of promoting the education of it, getting people excited, showcasing what there is to see out there, especially in places where there isn't as much access, and raising awareness at the fact that I'm originally from Jamaica, and being an island. Cayman Islands is even smaller. It's 24 miles by 4 miles long for Grand Cayman. The amount of people who don't know how to swim is you wouldn't believe. And it's partly driven by fear of the ocean. So from a foundational perspective, what we're hoping to do is change that fear into curiosity. The more you learn about your environment, the more likely you're going to want to explore it. And the more you learn about the ways and the do's and don'ts from an educational standpoint, you have a better chance of being able to immerse yourself in a place and not feel guilty about it. Mm-hmm. So what the conservation education program that we're doing is providing the education to educators who then have kids that they teach, both informal educators and formal educators, and inspire them that this is something worth pursuing, that it is a skill set that is important and can develop your life, bring meaning, but also allow you to be participating in things like building the blue economy. I didn't appreciate at the time, as a child, what diving would allow me to do. It was through mentors like my father that said, don't worry about it. You're going to dive at 8 years old. Never mind the fact that you're supposed to be only diving at 10. But he showed me not to be fearful of these things and have gratitude for the fact that we're able to do them. And it's over time that I have learned how beneficial that skill set has been in terms of my education. And I then feel that I have the responsibility to showcase that there are resources out there to help us be better people. And so the programs, the conservation education program is wonderful in the sense that we partner with education partners. We go to a specific place. FWC is one of our great partners, along with, so many. But the idea is that we we don't have a facility ourselves to be able to teach people to dive. So, or to take people kayaking, but there are so many great facilities that have these abilities to do that. So we partner with them they get a training as educators with us for the day and learn about art and science through whatever standard and whatever grade level makes sense depending on the signups. And then we partner with them they have a day with an educational partner to showcase an activity like diving or kayaking or exploring the mangroves or seine netting, or there's just that's how we help, is trying not to reinvent the wheel, being realistic with our capacity, but supporting partners that do that. Same with the project that Forest Blue and Guy Harvey Foundation and Moat Marine and iCare. We are not coral reef experts, but we work with coral reef experts to help towards a common solution. And so we've been working together as part of a coral reef restoration in Isla Morada for a couple of years now. Our unique factor is the storytelling part. That's what we can help provide. Forest Blue brings in the guns, literally, in terms of the manpower, the training. We can help with that in terms of facilitating that. And iCare and Moat provide the facilities for us to allow it to happen. So collaboration is absolutely key for success.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. One of the things that we're most proud of, again, I have a lot to be proud of, but about 4 years ago, we started a program called our Ocean Conservation School, Forest Blue Ocean Conservation School. And we started it for Gold Star families. Obviously, if you're not familiar with Gold Star families, they're families who've lost a mother, father, husband, wife to military service. What we saw was our guys, as much as they love going on missions and being part of the marine scientific community, they also want to give back to the veteran community. So they learned to become dive instructors so that they could in turn teach these Gold Star kids to become marine conservation leaders. So it's a 5-day course. They basically get their NAUI open water dive certification at the end of it. But throughout the whole thing, we're teaching them about marine conservation, because it's not like, hey, we're teaching you to dive because it's cool. We're teaching you to be that next generation of marine conservation leaders. And then we make them do push-ups all the time. So it feels like boot camp, which is what their fathers or, their families respond to. So, and it's been an amazing program. We're going to be doing our 5th one this June. And I think we've had, 60, 70 kids go through. And now all of our guys are getting their instructor certifications because they all want to be part of teaching the kids to be marine conservationists. So education's a big part of what we do as well now.
Yeah, that's terrific. Are you?
Actually, we could show that one. That's not it, but that's a project we did with the NFL. Okay. If you guys would like to see this, one of the things I'm really proud of is about 5 years ago when the Super Bowl was in Miami, the NFL came to us and said, we want to do a project, something to do with coral around the Super Bowl. It was the 100th anniversary, or it was the 100th NFL's 100th season. So we created a project called 100 Yards of Hope, which started as planting 100 pieces of coral and evolved into creating an entire football field-sized coral restoration project. We made a feature film about it. This is a trailer of that film. It's only about 2 minutes long, so you can see, but there you go.
Dramatic declines to the point that our reefs are on the precipice of disappearing.
If you live in Nebraska, the middle of the country, how is coral reefs important to you? And we get that question all the time. Coral reefs are the breeding ground of a variety of species that live in the ocean. And if we don't protect the ocean, we won't have a world where we can breathe healthy air.
There's a lot of bad news when we talk about coral reefs, but there's also a lot of hope. Innovations and new tools and new ideas shine some light on the potential for us to restore these delicate reef systems.
We were really the first people to be able to predictably spawn corals in a biosecure facility and we can do it in a way where they can be planted back out onto the reefs again. So how do we make restoration and outplanting really efficient?
Force Blue retrains and then redeploys former special operations veterans, all military trained combat divers, to work alongside environmentalists and marine scientists on ocean conservation missions.
It's a challenge for many veterans to go from that really defined sense of mission and then trying to figure out who you are and what you're supposed to do as a civilian.
I fell apart after the Iraq War. That darkness, that shadow, it started tearing me apart. The waters of life from Force Blue completely healed that.
The bulk of their underwater work had been in the dark, in kind of murky areas. They never looked around, and now they're getting back in the water, amazed at the biodiversity and how therapeutic it is to have a different mission.
Innovation happens when challenges present themselves. Big solutions require collaborative conservation. Everybody is coming together for 100 yards of hope.
By connecting this coral reef project to Super Bowl, we hope it will bring much wider attention to the plight of coral and to our oceans. 70% of people pay attention to sports news, sports headlines. Only 15% of people pay attention to science.
We're at the restoration site, so we've arranged the plot to look like a football field. So each buddy group is actually going to take one of the yard lines to build the perimeter of the field.
Most of the things that I've done have been more on the demolition side, so this is pretty neat in the restoration side.
People that have experienced trauma and pain want to protect things that cannot protect themselves. We have to heal others or other things to heal ourselves.
While our time is dwindling, the fight's not over. Right now, we have the world's attention. All eyes are on Florida. This really is ground zero. If there's anywhere to fight for their future, it's here.
That answers one of the questions that I was going to ask you about how that process of healing these guys that have been in, just seen the worst of the worst, the PTS. But now I'd like to ask the audience, do you have any questions? Yes.
Hello. Okay. Have you thought about teaming up with Bud Light with all those six packs?
Yeah.
She's talking about me.
I think you had a question? Yes.
I'll just speak up. I don't need.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, all three of you. Very, very amazing, interesting presentations. I'm with the Rotary International Rotary Club of Ann Arbor North, and I was invited here for the first 2 days of the Rotary experience that was put together as part of EarthX. And I emphasized the importance of plant-rich diets and the need to migrate in large numbers and quickly and urgently to look at the carbon footprint of the food choices we make every day, because that's the only way to save and address the problems that were highlighted on this stage. And I want to just commend you, Sally, for putting the list about the meals intervention up front. Because yes, it takes 1,200 gallons of water, which is the equivalent of flushing your toilet for 6 months, 4 or 5 times a day, which is the typical frequency of a human being, to generate 1/4 pound of hamburger. So thank you very much. I just want to commend you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Emily?
I'm actually wondering, I was just looking up, a very dear friend of mine is doing an event for D-Day at Normandy, and it looks like there's about 150 wrecks. Very fascinating history over there. Has that been something you've looked into?
Very funny that you bring that up. So one of our sponsors is a video game company in Europe called World of Warships. I don't know if anybody's ever played World of War. They do World of Tanks, World of Warships. Huge company. I had no idea how much money is in video games until I met these guys. But last year, they came to us and they said, we would like, for the 80th anniversary of D-Day, we'd like you to send a team over to Normandy to tell a story. Whatever you want to tell, we just want to support you guys doing something. So we knew that the Navy SEAL Museum in Fort Pierce was building a monument to the Naval Combat Demolition Units, who were the guys that were the first ashore. Basically, it was their job to clear all the obstacles so that the invasion could go forth. They had a 55% casualty rate. Nobody's ever told their story. So we took 4 Navy SEALs over to Normandy and told the story of their predecessors, because they literally were the descendants of the Navy SEALs, and made a film called Frog Fathers. And it actually premiered on Veterans Day, or on D-Day last year on Fox Nation. It's available. You can watch it on Magellan TV, for instance. And I'm really excited about this, because we were kind of joking. We were there for 10 days, and it was an amazing experience. But we were like, wow, this is so much fun. We should go do one next year in the Pacific. And they came back to us and said, hey, that idea you had, we're gonna go to Okinawa in July. And we're actually gonna be rebuilding a section of coral that 80 years ago was blown up by the UDT teams to pave the way for the landing. And we're gonna be rebuilding that exact gap while we tell the story of the Battle of Okinawa. And we'll be doing that in July. So I'm super excited about that.
Wow.
Anyway. Yeah, but that's, yeah.
Spot on.
Anyone else?
Sally.
Yes.
Hi. Nice to reconnect with you. And just for the audience to know, Sally's been on this journey for 52 years. I've been on the journey with her for 42 years when we met at Austin, or back in Aspen a long time ago. Real quick. Forest Blue, I have the other half that I think will help Sally get to where she wants to go. And right now it's called the Green Revolution, which started in Iowa, which is ground zero when it comes to regenerative ag. We need to turn the Green Revolution into Forest Green. And so I'd love to figure out how we can do that together. But as that gentleman over there talked about food, we're launching in Denver in August at the National Western Center, the story of food. Because if you really look at the story of food, and it's taken me 42 years to figure this out, and I'm sorry I'm a slow learner, Sally, but if you look at the role that food plays in every aspect of all the things that Sally presented up here, it's the solution. It connects us all. Of course, we're disconnected to our food, certainly in America, because it's not really food. We're going to fix that in Iowa and then take it across the country. But anyway, so much praise for what you've been doing. And Sally, you know, I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you've been doing. But before we leave, I'd like to connect with you both and look at a next step, because I think I have one that can help and 10x what you guys are doing. I mean, we'll do that together, but we've got to put those pieces, because it's speed and scale that needs to show up.
And before we close, I'd just like to add one thing, that seagrass is absolutely incredible. It grows very fast. There is, I don't want to call it geoengineering or GMO, but there are some people working on how to make it grow 85% faster. It absorbs huge amounts of carbon dioxide, and it makes oxygen. And you can see from the seagrass, you can see the bubbles of oxygen. If seagrass was restored, this is for you, this is your next job. If it was restored, I can't remember the figure, but it was amazing how much carbon would be drawn down.
Yeah, again, you're absolutely right. And I just learned all of this because I'm not a scientist, so I sort of learn this as we go on these missions. But for this year's Super Bowl, for instance, was in New Orleans. So we went down and built a living shoreline with a bunch of partners. It was a fantastic program. This group called the Chef's Brigade in New Orleans is a consortium of restaurants. And they took oyster shells from all the restaurants, recycled them, put them in bags, 30-pound bags, and then we went out and used them to armor an entire section of the coastline. We had like 1,000 people out putting this. I mean, we laid down 59 tons of oyster shells for the 59 Super Bowl 59, right? But I didn't even learn like the spat that is in the floating around will adhere to these oyster shells, these recycled oyster shells, and build a living, breathing shoreline. And it's the easiest thing in the world to do. And we had, I mean, that hats off to New Orleans and to the Gulf Coast, because man, everybody down there gets it. Like they understand, they are living with, loss of land and encroachment. And, they just all rallied together, and it was just, we had pastors out with restaurants, with chefs, like the entire community came together to build these, and it's very similar to seagrass, but just build these living shorelines, and it's a, inspirational thing. So.
We only have a couple minutes left. So Jessica, what would you like to leave us with?
I would like to leave us with the fact that we have to continue to have hope. We have to believe that all the work that is going into the effort of looking after our home is worthwhile. And I'm honored to be a part of that. I'm honored to have met some incredible people today and know that so many things are working at the same time to try and get us to a place where we don't have to go to bed thinking, what is happening to our planet? Because our generation, one of the biggest things that I say all the time, and Greg, my colleague here, has heard this a lot, is that it is frustrating to me, the narrative of that the next generation are going to be able to fix this. It's not fair. We have a lot of things going on in our own lives that we're trying to manage all the time. And we have a responsibility to help do our part where nobody's perfect, right? And I think that's part of what the divisiveness that's plagued our society has really come to a head now, is that we have a hard time just speaking to each other. And it's really sad. And so I hope that what you're hearing today gives you inspiration to be a part of it, to be open-minded, and to know that we are here to do our part. If you want to learn more about the foundation side and the unique side and what everything is doing, we hope that you will take these initiatives seriously, and recognize that the other point that I just noticed, in terms of, sorry, I'm going over this a little bit, but I used to work with the government for 3.5 years prior to working with the Guy Harvey Foundation. And it was eye-opening in the sense of understanding how government plays a part, but how stakeholders, it takes all of us to make something work. And so the conservation efforts that are happening, like we're talking about the seagrass and replenishing the coral and all of these things, there's a lot of people out there who are using it as an excuse to further other things that are unsustainable. Coming from Cayman, one of the things is that, we've made progress in terms of replenishing and moving coral, and it's regrowing at the fastest rate possible. We didn't know that it was happening. So they think that it doesn't matter if damage is happening because they think it can be fixed more easily. That's not the message that we're sending. The message is that, yes, we are having to make discoveries and put millions of dollars in how we can help fix part of the problem. But if we just respect that nature has evolved the way it has over millions of years, and that understanding that balance and protecting that is going to save us time, money, and effort and sanity. That's what we're trying to say, is that we're doing what we can to curb back these issues, but we need to also give nature a chance to do the same. because it is actively working for us every single second of the day. And so I'm glad to be here, and thank you so much to everyone's willingness to help with that effort.
Great, thank you. A last word?
Yeah, very simply, get on board. You know, we often say it doesn't matter if you get on from the left side or the right side. We're all in the same boat. And get out of the echo chambers and the silos that we're in. You know, opposites do attract. I think we have proven that. SEALs and scientists are very different people, but you put them together, and all they want to do is serve and do good. And it is a hopeful story. I completely agree with Jess. I think our conservation story has been narrative. We talked about this yesterday. Has been stuck in the same place it was since the 70s, and that's who's to blame, demonize, and that turns off half the population right away. So let's make it a hopeful story. Let's make it a story of awe. Let's fall back in love. You know, my coastal resilience story is that we need to, and you used the word, I think, earlier today, and I was like, that's it. We need to revere nature, revere these places. You know, we protect what we love, right? So let's start loving these things again.
Yeah, good. And so I think this has been really an excellent discussion here, and it's gone in some really interesting directions. I would like to close with a couple things. One is that, you know, that we're in an inflection point in human history, and the new is trying desperately to manifest. That's new mindset, but it's also a new heart set. And we have to embrace that and love that, because in loving ourselves, we love nature. It's automatic. And I slept in a tree when I was a young girl, from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Every moment that I could be with her. And it was a her. I don't know how it was a her, but I knew it was a her. And she taught me more than all the schooling I had and doing doctoral work at Yale University, And what I learned is that the greatest existential risk on this planet is the illusion of separation. We think we are separate from each other. We think we're separate from nature. We've set up our environment so we are separate. We're cool when it's hot. We're warm when it's cold. And that's fine. But we're losing our own true nature. And when we lose that, we lose Mother Nature. So I just like to leave you with the thought of contemplating on that a little bit and looking at the other side of the coin of the blue economy. So thank you all for being here and sticking with us, and let's give these panelists a really good round.